Good morning. We're about to go into Shabbos. It's Shabbos Mevorchim, the Shabbos that blesses the upcoming month of Menachemov. It is also Shabbos Chazak, where we celebrate the conclusion of the fourth book of the Torah, the book of Bamidbar. And to do that, we read a double Torah portion, Matos and Masei. Matos starts off with an address to the Roshei HaMatos, the heads of the tribes, and Masei starts off by telling us the journeys, Masei, Eile Masei B'nai Yisrael. These are the journeys of the Jewish people, Asher Yatzu Eretz Mitzrayim, that they took to leave the land of Egypt. And the Torah goes on to list 42 journeys, which in itself is interesting because many of those places were not journeys per se, they were overnight stops. Nevertheless, the Torah calls them journeys. And what's intriguing about it is it says these are the journeys in the plural that the Jewish people took to leave Egypt. Now, to leave Egypt is a single journey. There's a border. You cross the border. On the one side of the border, you're in Egypt. On the other side of the border, you're out of Egypt. So that's it. Surely it's one journey to leave Egypt. Why does the Torah say these are the journeys over a period of 40 years? 42 different journeys in order to leave Egypt. And then, of course, eventually at the end of it, they land up at what is called Al Yarden Yerechoi, which means that they get to the border of Israel. They get to the promised land, which represents this incredible spiritual achievement, not only a physical destination. So what's the Torah telling us? We know that in Hebrew words are very carefully chosen. The word Mitzrayim, which is the Hebrew for Egypt, comes from the word Meitzar. Meitzar means a very narrow, constricting, claustrophobic experience. So to have been in Egypt as slaves, you can imagine, was a very limiting experience. Here was a people with tremendous potential who were schlepping bricks and building cities that were going nowhere. So you can imagine just how limiting that was for them. Now, spiritually, each of us lands up in that kind of an experience, and possibly even physically as well. Right now, we're in a sort of a Mitzrayim, restricted movement. We can't interact socially in the normal way. So it's kind of a Mitzrayim. And likewise, spiritually, a person could be in a spiritual Mitzrayim, which means that I'm very limited in my understanding, very limited in the things that I do. I feel kind of restrained and restricted either because of external circumstances or because of my own issues and weaknesses. So when that happens, whatever the situation might be, it could be a physical experience that we're going through where we feel that the world is closing in on us, or it could be a spiritual experience where we feel that we just don't know how we're supposed to get moving. How do I inspire myself? How do I grow? So whenever that happens, the Torah comes to tell us, look, life is a series of journeys. And every single person will go through a series of journeys. In fact, the Baal Shem Tov taught that all of us will go through 42 different journeys in our own lives. Some of them will be dramatic and prolonged journeys, and some will be overnight stops. Some issues we'll tackle for our whole lives, and other issues will resolve in a relatively short period of time. But in each case, here are the two important things to remember. The first is that to leave Mitzrayim, and Mitzrayim is not a location, it's a state of mind, it's an experience that I'm going through. To break out of whatever it is that seems to shackle me takes one step. Just one step. Often we think, I have to have this whole 5-year plan and a proper strategy. One step in the right direction already makes a revolutionary difference to my experience. Number two, though, the flip side of it is, when you've made that step, don't pat yourself on the back and say, wow, look at me, look how well I've gone, look how much I've done. It's journeys. There's a constant movement out of Egypt. Wherever we progress to, that becomes the new Egypt, meaning to say that this becomes the new set of limitations that I have compared to the potential of what I could still achieve. And so the Torah is teaching us that a person at all times should constantly strive to always improve, and not just to improve, but to improve in such significant fashion that you look back and say, wow, I cannot believe that just a short while ago I lived in such a confined space. May Hashem bless us to successfully go through those journeys and leave behind both the physical, the mental, and the spiritual Egypt, Mitzrayim experiences that might plague us at this time. Have a wonderful Shabbos. We're blessing the new month. May it be a good month.